Get it rocking. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Champion School Podcast. I'm Austin Byler, Major League University. We got Dean Wellams, Team Elite Performance, and our special guest, University of Nevada head baseball coach TJ Bruce. We're rocking the Wolfpack. We went back Memorial Day caps. We're gonna get a new one, but this thing, it's got some dirt on it. I got sweat stains. Oh man, it's been old school. It's been a while. How we doing, Coach?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Dino, good to see you. And,
man.
Love what you're doing, man. It's fun to watch and humbled to be on your show.
It's been, well, one, it's fun to watch from afar, especially being in the Nevada connection. We got 3 Nevada dudes. I consider us all Nevada dudes now because once you've been there, you never go back. You never not go back. You love Reno. And then just being able to get this thing lined up is awesome. And I'm excited to just pick your brain as far as culture, mindset, leadership. A bunch of different tactics to get into your story and everything. But I want you to kind of take us through your story. I love opening up with stories. I love to see kind of where you've been, how you got into coaching in the first place. You spent a lot of time under Coach Savage at UCLA, went to a World Series, won a World Series. So you got the ring. Let's go. But your story, man, what kind of led you into the coaching career and then getting into being a head coach?
Well, I finished playing in 2004 under Coach Weathers. On a super regional team, and then I didn't have the opportunity to play professional baseball. I hit 187, so that there's not a whole lot of opportunity after that. But it was a great, unbelievable experience. Learned from a father figure. We still talk to this day, 2-3 times a week. But actually got into coaching on accident. 2004, I had one more year left of school. So Mike called and he's like, "Hey, I got an undergraduate spot open. Would love for you to take it. I think you'll be a really good coach one day." And I just balked at it. I just didn't. I'm like, "No, I got to make money. You know how it goes. You got to get out in the real world. You got to make money. I want money, blah, blah, blah." And he called me back twice and I said no. And then I was actually driving to downtown Disney, believe it or not, for the third time, the third call. And he goes, "This is my last and final call. I think you got something. Love to have you back. I found you a job. Are you willing to come back if I can nail this job down?" And I said, yeah. So I went back. And then in 2005, I was the undergraduate on the 2005 team. And then after the 2005 season, he didn't fire me, but he told me I need to go elsewhere and learn. And he goes, "Hey, you need to really decide if you want to coach." Because by then I just graduated. So I went to my junior college for 1 year in 2006, and I got engaged that same fall. Or no, sorry, I went through the 2006 season at Cerritos Junior College, and then at the end of that, Coach hired me back as a volunteer. Got engaged in 2006, or got married in 2006, sorry. And then I was a volunteer really through 2010. And then at that point, it was tough. It was a crossroads. I had a job at the docks working from 5 in the morning to 1. Then I'd run to practice, and then obviously trying to be a husband and trying to be a provider. And my wife was doing her credential stuff, all that. And then in 2010, I interviewed for a few jobs, didn't get some of them, turned one of them down. Just wasn't the right job. And then in 2010, he retired. Coach Weathers retired. And then now you're just kind of looking around left and right. What's going to happen next? Went off to coach summer ball in Alaska. Had a daughter by then. Rowan was 3 months old. And then I didn't get rehired back at Long Beach, as an assistant. I was there for all those years as an assistant. And then they had a new staff, didn't get hired, and then my saving grace, John Savage, called in July and really just gave my family a heartbeat into where I am today. I mean, he's the reason I'm sitting in this chair. I mean, Coach Weathers obviously a big influence, but John called in July and goes, "Hey, are you interested in the UCLA job?" And I'm like, "Interested? What? Like, what do you mean am I interested?" "Yeah, of course." So I came, he goes, "Well, can you be back home August 3rd? And I said, "I'll be back home tomorrow if you need me." And they were just going through that national championship run. They eventually lost to South Carolina in 2010. And he hired me August 3rd and spent 5 years there with him. 5 incredible years, won over 200 games in 5 years at UCLA, won a national title, went to Omaha twice, won 3 Pac-12 championships. I mean, just an incredible run. And then was fortunate enough when Nevada called, I was in Florida recruiting, and John called. He goes, "Hey, are you interested in the Nevada job?" And, you know, it's at that point, you owe your boss so much and your loyalty is so strong. And basically my response was, if you think I should be interested, then I am. If you tell me no, then I won't be. And he says, well, I think you should be interested. And obviously I knew the connections in the hometown and Coach Alt and all the above. And sure enough, Doug called and I had to buy a suit in your hometown in Phoenix because I went from Florida to Phoenix. I ended up having to buy a suit in Phoenix, flew back to Reno, flew back to Phoenix, and then all while on the job recruiting. And then Doug called and changed, and really another life changer. Doug called and changed our family's life again and gave me the opportunity at 32 years old to be a head coach. And I'm forever grateful to Doug Knuth and the community here. I love it here. And it's been a game changer for my family.
I think it's incredible, Coach, to just hear the different stories. Like, you said no twice. You're like, no, I don't want to get into coaching. But somebody saw something in you. And I think that's the beauty of kind of what we have as coaches as well. And with the position you're in is you get to see something in other people. And we'll get into the recruiting aspect later because world renowned in the recruiting field, you recruit really, really good athletes. But I think it's because you see something in them and you believe in them and you instill that belief in those athletes. But I love the story, like work until 1 a.m. You got to get up, you got to go bust it for your coaches, for your players, for your staff. You got to show up with somewhat of a positive attitude, to at least be somebody there for them to lean on too, because you have a big responsibility. Now, for any of the coaches out there that are in these situations, there's a lot of assistant coaches, ones who aren't in that head position yet, and they're grinding through it. Maybe they're a volunteer or director of ops. What advice do you have for them to stick in the fight if this is something that they really want to do one day?
Yeah, really good question. I think that's something that's overlooked. And I think in 2020, where we're at now, everything's just instant feedback, right? That's what I think social media has created. That's just what a lot of outside entities have created. And I don't think as a whole, there's a whole lot of value on working your way up. I can honestly say I was an undergrad to a volunteer to an assistant to the recruiting guy to now a head coach. And so I saw a lot of different levels. And, you know, the one thing I do always tell these guys, you got to get support from your family. And I was really fortunate during this time that my parents allowed me to do this, and they understood as I created this avenue of coaching. And then as I wanted to pursue this, they were super supportive. They were tough on me at times, and I had to understand that. But the other part is too, is I went through this whole journey with my wife now. I mean, we didn't all of a sudden, I didn't become a head coach and then all of a sudden I got married and had kids. I had an unbelievable rock at home in my wife that allowed me to pursue, because for the longest time, you know, she was a teacher and I was just working on the docks making, you know, $10 an hour, and she was the breadwinner and whatnot. And I just say, surround yourself with the people that understand your goals and dreams. And the other part is you got to have a vision. And I think when you do that, you got to be able to set the vision for other people that are in your circle. And that way they can hold you accountable. They can be your support. They can be the encourager when you need it. They can also be the person that brings it down to reality at times. And if coaching's your passion, then none of us are in this for the money. I think that's obviously there's a byproduct of that. I know college baseball is definitely mainstream as it's ever been, and guys are getting paid, and we're seeing that. But none of us got into this profession because of money. You, Dino, myself, none of it. We want money and a steady this and that. We would have gone 8 to 5 and sat behind a desk. Well, that's not who we are as people, and our vision was something else. And that would be the advice to these young guys. And the last part I would tell an assistant is the guy that's always reaching for the next level. That's really good to have some personal goals, but I'm going to tell you what, the one thing you need to do is you got to help your head coach win. And that's your only sole focus. And I'll never forget when Coach Savage won that national championship in 2013. I remember just sitting back in the hotel room that night, and I was emotional because I watched him do what he loves to do and put in his time, and I saw what he did, what he sacrificed with his family, and for him to win that and to win that national championship, it wasn't about me and my career or nothing else. It was about him, and that's where I think some guys get misguided in some areas. If your program wins, you will take the next step, and that's your only job, is to make your boss look good. And I was as loyal. If coach would have said to jump into the 405, I probably would have jumped in the 405. If he would have said, hey, walk across this, I would have walked. I mean, I was just super loyal to him and the opportunity he gave me. And so in return, I couldn't pay him a monetary figure, but I could pay him loyalty, respect, be a good person, be accountable to his program, and help him any way I could.
Oof, I love the words that you're spitting out, and loyalty, respect, being there like a servant and helping others, especially in that position. I think, and I'm sure you know this as well as anybody, but as an assistant coach, it's probably extremely tough to be exactly in that moment and to try and win where you're at, because you have that vision, right? You want to be a head coach. Yep. You're always looking for these opportunities. But I think the biggest thing to take away from that is what you said of helping your team win and helping your head coach win. Because if you can do that, those opportunities are going to open up for you. But that's got to be so tough to be able to stick into it. But I think one thing is the rocket home. Your wife posted a picture the other day on Facebook, and you guys are all in the Lakers jerseys. And I'm like, dang, coach is kind of jacked, man. He's getting in there with Coach Eck in the weight room in the offseason, man. He's filming the biceps, got the tan on, looking good, man. I had to pump you up there. I wanted to throw it in there. But it's awesome to see the rocket home being able to surround yourself with really good people in your life. What did you do to surround yourself with good people? And was it just kind of natural, like they just happened to kind of fall in the cracks? Or was it something where you had to separate yourself at some point? And Dino, you can kick it off after this, but separate yourself from some other people who weren't helping you get to that vision and surround yourself with the right people, even if that's less people in your circle.
Yeah, I think as you grow, and I guess the proper term would be mature. I guess as you do that, I think number one, it's about your vision and where do you want to be. It's no different than what you tell our players, right? It's like, hey, you want to win a Mountain West championship? Okay, so here's where we're at. Here's what we got to do. How can we close the gap? And I think it's no different in our personal careers. But I think there's always challenges along the way. I remember, sifting through the group that's really has your best interests at heart. And I was somebody that was motivated by tough love, per se. I wanted to be challenged. So I always looked for guidance by people that were going to challenge me to become a better person, a better coach, a better person in my faith. I wanted people around me that were going to challenge me, and that would give me the baseline for if I ever hit rock bottom. I didn't fall all the way to the bottom. I fell to my baseline. I always had a foundation to lean back on. But you go through your times, and I think everybody comes into your life for a reason. There's no question. So I think it's opportunity to meet new people, but I think it's opportunity to understand what you're looking for as you run your own program, run your own business, run your family household. I mean, I don't run my family household, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But I think it's just always opportunity. And I hit some tough times. You're running with a different crowd than you're running with this crowd. But I think ultimately it's who has your best interest and how are you motivated. And Dean knows a lot. I spent a lot of time with Dean. And a lot of it on the personal level of being challenged. And I've always connected with people that are going to challenge me, whether it's Pat Murphy, who, came out last year and just basically blew my doors off in a good way on challenging me in a lot of different arenas, or Dean, or, I'm still super close with my high school coach. He's actually in Reno right now. So he always challenged me. Coach Weathers, all these people have challenged me to become a better person, but a better, coach, a better motivator, a better being better adjusting on the fly, being better adapting, all this stuff. And that's right. That's what I have encountered during this time. And then the number one person is my wife. I mean, I get challenged by her every day. I mean, I wouldn't do this job without her. I couldn't do this job without her, that's for sure. But just the challenges, and we were talking about mindset because she's leading. She has a group called the Night on Mindset, actually, believe it or not. And so we were talking about different things, and we lead different. She was a principal, and I'm a head coach, and we lead completely different. But the ultimate goal at the end of the day is making people around you better or in your group better. Because at some point, I want all our assistants to be head coaches. I want people around me to move up, and if I do that, then ultimately, if the coaches move on and the players move on, then I was taught well, and I'm serving the people that taught me and got me in this game the right way.
That's amazing, man. Just being able to surround yourself with people that are making you better and challenge you, like you mentioned. Like maybe for you, your cup of tea is I need somebody to kick me in gear and like motivate me and challenge me in a tough way. Maybe for Dean, maybe it's like maybe some more coddling and some love or something like that. But we're all different. Yeah. You found the flavor, man. I love seeing the growth just from year to year and just in your mindset and how everything's going. It's incredible to watch, man. Dino, go ahead and kick it off, man.
No, Coach, good to see you as always, man. I want to ask you, because I have not heard this part of the story, but this will be a quick question. But why did you finally say yes on the third call? Like I haven't heard. Honestly, because you know what I mean. Like what? There's got to be coaches out there wondering why did he finally screw it? I'm going to do this.
Well, I think honestly, part of it was there wasn't. I didn't have a whole lot going on. I went on a few job interviews, and I remember, you're putting on some slacks and you're. It felt awkward for me. And I think I didn't have a reason, ultimate reason then. And I think part of it was because there was a job in line for me that I can bring home some money. And that's the truth of it. And that's looking inside and understanding that's the reality. But as I kept going, the ultimate goal is affecting people around you, because people have affected me. And I think that's the way, people want to talk about changing the world and doing this. I think that's how you do it. I think that's how you affect people in a positive way around you. And Coach Weathers was such a positive influence in my life. And he was a tough love, man. It was, I got a chance to play on a really good team but man, he was so hard on me from day one. And not just me, but everybody in his program needed to run a certain way. And I loved it, and he still challenges me to this day. And so I don't know if I really answered it, but I think the first thing was financially. I had a chance to do that and be on the field still. My best friend, Tula, was still playing, so I was like, I just get another chance to hang out with him for another year. And but the ultimate goal as I got going and created my own vision was, man, what a cool opportunity. I got a chance to affect people in my own way, or, leave at least a positive influence on some people around me.
No, that you answered the first one and the second one, because that was my next one. So, and then when did that shift take place? You're like, actually, I want to do this, which, why, I want to be a coach, but to have an impact on people. So let me ask you this one, because I kind of know this, but I think it'd be really good for them to know. So recently and you were talking about surrounding yourself with the right people and having a vision in that. And so you kind of took your family through a process and you guys kind of established, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but I think it'd be good for people to understand too, because mostly like, why'd you do it? Because there's that part that says, I think, anybody listening, and all three of us for sure, like, I know I certainly admire people who are the same, they're the same person wherever, they're not like this way, and this way here, and you're not really sure what you're going to get. Those people don't resonate very well with me. So it's that, but for you to say, all right, we're going to have this vision with our family and this, kind of vision mission with our family and this, but like I said, I think it'd be super good for coaches to know whether they've got a family, whether they're on their own, it's a good process to go, and how that carries over the baseball field. But yeah, the whys, the what, but I think that'd be super important for people to hear that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, because we're all so affected by people, and people leave an everlasting effect on us, positively, negatively. We form our own opinions. But I just really came to came to a point in my coaching career. It's a young coaching career for sure, but I just came to a point where I wanted to be, I wanted to have an identity along with what I do as a job. And I think that's, I think that's what you guys do, and you exemplify that. It was Austin, the baseball player, Nevada, the pro player. Then it became Austin, the person that's into the mental game, which wants to affect people around him. Whether he's still the baseball player, but there's another identity to him. And Dean, I think that's partly what you do too. It was Dean one way, and then you wanted to have another identity to where, I guess, the foundation of who you were and what you represent. And that's really what I went through, because I wasn't for so long, and I'm not discounting wins and losses, because we get it. We get hired and we get fired based on winning and losing. Right. But I think if you want to dig deep into the mental game, and this is part of it, there's a process before the product. And if you're just going to chase wins and you're going to chase results, then you're in for an up and down career as a coach or a player. And I think that's really why my wife and I started this family mission. We sat down during this time, and I know everybody's handling this time a lot different. I'm in as good of a spot mentally that I've ever been in with this time, and because I looked at it as opportunity. And there again, Coach Weathers, man, he called me the second day and he goes, "Okay, what are you going to do today?" And I'm like, "I don't really know." And he goes, "It's opportunity." He goes, "Ken Ravizza, it's opportunity." And I'm like, "Okay, here we go. It's opportunity." So that really just changed me. And then my wife and I sat down and said, who are we? Right? We don't have baseball right now. And no one knows. It'd be pretty arrogant of us to think that we're going to be around in a week or 2 or 3 or 4 months. Right. We don't know that. So who are we? No baseball, no practice, no recruiting, no games. Who are we? And I think you sit around, and I think that's where people get lost. I think people get lost and they don't know who they are. And so my wife and I sat down and we said, who is the Bruce family, and what do we represent? And so we took our kids on this little journey inside the living room, and we just posted a little bit of it on social media. But what we did is we came up with 6 things that we wanted to represent our family and our character, and we wanted to raise our family by. And so obviously we're a family of faith, so we attached Bible verses to each word. So the first one, not in any particular order. I got all my papers right here, by the way. I don't have a nice desk, but I got papers. And the first word's loyalty. So what does that mean to me? What does it mean to my wife? And then you're teaching your kids about loyalty. You're teaching your kids about that. And then within that, as we raise our kids through the church, we attached Proverbs 17:17 right to loyalty. And there you go. So they always will know exactly what that is. So that was really why we did it. And I also think what you do off the field carries over to what you do on the field. I'm a firm believer in that. And I think all the really good teams are really good in the classroom, and they're really good off the field, and they will sustain success longer. Now you're going to have a few things to where, you got a bad off the field or bad grades, and then you do really good. But the point of our job is to sustain success and sustain what we're doing. Like you talked about, is being the same person. And this is our way of holding each other accountable. It's one of our words is love. For me, love means a lot of different ways. For my wife, she leads in love a little different. I tend to lead in tough love, more or less. So we attached, obviously, we attached Romans 12:9-10 in that one. I mean, talk about love, and now we have a foundation now as a family, and we have an identity on who we are as the Bruce family. And that's what I think why we did it. And I think this will bleed into our program in terms of, we always grab this saying and that saying and that saying and that saying. We make it so complicated. Here's 6 words: loyalty, respect, love, respond, accountability, and courage. That's what our family lives by. And now that's what our program is going to live by. That way I'm not living two separate lives and two separate identities. We can't have that. You talk about family, gets overused, family and culture, right? Those are the cool words to say. Well, how are you living it is basically what I would ask people.
Well, I got to believe too, dude. If you can teach little kids how to respond and not react, you'd make $1 bazillion in another field doing that. So I love that word's on there. But I'm thinking about that word with my 6-year-old who's having a meltdown over something. Like, Zach, I need you to respond and not react right now. And if I just get that through. But to your point, it's because I'm going to guess that, that those 6 words, even though you may not use the 6 words, like you said, it filters over into Nevada baseball. Like, it's the who you are on the field, off the field. And as you were sitting there saying that, I know the three of us have seen it, and maybe coaches on here, but it's that, Simon Sinek put that video out 6 months ago, went pretty viral, and he was talking about the Navy SEALs and the performance and the performance trust axis type thing. And, you remember that. I mean, that was kind of their philosophy was performance is, can I trust you with my life? And then trust was, can I trust you with my money and my wife, which is all the off the field stuff, and how basically as a Navy SEAL, that was more important to them. I need to be able to trust, I mean, just like you were saying with baseball players, like when does most of the stuff show up? When they're inside the lines or outside the lines? When they're there with you guys, okay, we're all, for the most part, I mean, it's not always perfect, but for the most part, but it's the other stuff,
like no question,
to have an identity of who we are, who we are as a family, both, that's what I wrote down, both on and, both on and off the field. I wanted to ask you too, just because somebody popped up on the message there, and I'm curious to hear what your take on it is, but he was asking about your interaction with Murph and kind of what you said, hey, can you, somebody asked that question, can you elaborate a little bit? What did you learn, or what kind of stuff did he share with you? And you can give the PG or the R-rated version that Murphy always does anyway. So, I don't want you to leave anything out, because, you want any coach on here to get the full impact of what it's like to have Pat Murphy come and spend 24 hours with you.
Yeah, man. I think when you're a player, we always have those players you play against. And you're like, man, what that guy? There's something. I'll never forget Eric Burns, my time at UCLA, and then I'll get into Murph. But Eric Burns, I remember he was visiting UCLA during something, and he's talking to the staff, and we're talking about presence. And we were on that run of Cole and Bauer and Plutko and Kramer and Valleca and all these guys, and he talked about presence, and he talked about the UCLA presence and this presence and that. And he goes, the best presence he had was when he had his back turned signing autographs in Oakland one day. He's in front of the dugout, and Derek Jeter, it so happened to be that it was Derek Jeter that walked out of the dugout, or the opposing dugout in Oakland. But he said he knew it was Derek Jeter before he turned around. And there was no one yelling Derek or this or that, but he just felt like this shift in energy, and you're like, whoa, okay, who is that guy? And I would describe Murph as the same. I thought as a player, I'm like, always intrigued. What does he do? How does he make his guys tick? He has good players, but he had a way of getting to them, and bringing them down under the ASU umbrella. And I think that's a huge challenge for us as coaches and people, is to bring them under the same umbrella for the common goal. And so obviously as I did that, by then you were obviously well into Nevada baseball. And I know you and I were talking about it, and I had you set it up, and I said, hey, I need to know what this guy, what he does. And I say this guy because that's at that point I didn't have a personal relationship with him. I need to know what he's all about. And sure enough, I mean, when you called back and you're like, hey, Murph's going to come down in 2 weekends, I'm like, whoa. So now I'm like, okay, now I got to, and that's being at that point, I was 35 or 37, and it's like, or 36. And at that point, it's like, how vulnerable are you now? You're bringing in a Hall of Fame, a college baseball Hall of Fame head coach. Not only that, but just now he's a major league bench coach, and you're exposing your program, and you don't know what's going to come of it. And so I remember him walking in, or you guys both walking in. We were inter-squatting on Friday, and I think the one thing I remember about Murph was he's a teacher, and there's things that he's not afraid of conflict. He's not afraid of pushing you beyond your comfortable limits. And within the first 5 minutes, he asked me a few questions on why are you guys doing this, and we were stretching. Why do you guys do that? Who's the leader? Oh, why is he the fourth guy in line? Why are the what? And I'm like, I just couldn't really wrap my mind around what was happening. And I'm like, okay, and I thought we stretched at that point. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on is our stretch and our lines and how there's a method to it. And, and so just over the next 36 hours or so, the interaction was real. But that's what I need to go. It was authentic. It was organic. There was nothing forced. And ever since the day he left, he's checked in with me more than I've checked in with him. And I can tell, and that tells me a lot about who Pat Murphy is. And so just now we have this relationship that's blossomed into a mentorship and more importantly, a friendship. I mean, he's been through life experiences that I have yet to encounter. And so there's a friendship that goes beyond baseball. There's an identity to, at first it was Pat Murphy, TJ Bruce, the baseball peers, so you call it, I guess. Now it's a friendship, and we have an identity outside of baseball. And that was my time with him. And now it's at any time I can pick up the phone and call him. And believe it or not, he'll call me right back. I mean, he'll shoot me a text, say, hey, I can't talk. I'll call you in 15, 20 minutes. I'll call you tomorrow. I got things going on or whatnot. And it's just really genuine feedback and genuine guidance that has helped our program move forward. And it was forever impactful on me as a person. But I know for sure on our players. I am a little sad that our players don't remember some of those days, those, and Austin knows from living in Phoenix, right? Is like, oof. Packard, man, you don't go into Packard. And I know you don't go into Packard and come out with your tail high. You come out with your tail between the legs. And I'll be honest, one of the most, and I reminded Murph of this as I got to know him. We were the only team when I was a volunteer at Long Beach. We were the only team in 2007 to go into Packard and win a weekend series all year. And so I always kind of, that's my claim to fame with Murph. But man, just, and I would really encourage people to do that to people and open yourself up. And that's something that I'm not good at. That's something that I struggle with, is being vulnerable to outside influences and whatever that is. And I would really encourage people to open themselves up for that feedback, because it's just going to make you better. And I know you can't take it personal. Well, you do take it personal, because if you have pride in what you do, you take it personal. But I would say to listen to what people are saying and not just hear what they're saying. Listen to them, because you're going to pick up a lot more if you're listening other than hearing.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming about like literally like exposing the program, but yourself to somebody, to anybody, let alone somebody like that's a challenge. So as I'm sure there's coaches listening, I hope when some of them are saying, yeah, who's somebody I could call up, whether it's somebody I've got a relationship or don't have a relationship. I remember listening to Murphy on a podcast one time and telling a story about he and Gillespie, who was at USC, and the longtime guy Gillespie, right? I got the name right. Yep. And they hated each other, hated each other. And Murphy though picked up the phone and called him and said, I need you to evaluate me. And I'm like, who does that? Who calls but like you said, it's kind of his way of doing it. But to your point of I'm glad you brought it up at the end about the value of it, though, even though it's uncomfortable to bring somebody in. Let me ask you a different one, and I'll kick it back to Austin for a couple. you mentioned to me the other day, you were just talking about like simplicity and kind of the simplicity of the UCLA system and the importance of simplicity. Because as we know, I mean, you sometimes hear about talking technical terms in baseball, and it's gotten so technical. And I know for you, listening to you talk about it, the idea of keeping it simple is like super, super important to you. So maybe just elaborate for these guys on that one a little bit about, your thoughts on that and ways that you kind of, do your best to like keep it simple, not only for yourself, but for your players so they can go and perform.
Yeah. And I think that's a struggle at times because I think we gravitate to just the way we're at and the way we're built. We gravitate towards something new. And that's just what we get very bored with original, with just this over and over. Baseball practice. Baseball is a monotonous game, but you got to be perfect at a lot of smaller areas that has nothing to do with hitting a home run or hitting this and that. You got to trim it back down. And that's something that I took from Coach at UCLA. Just super simple. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of, I'm not going to say we didn't have buzzwords, but there's buzzword within the system, but it was just super simple. The plan was simple. The approach was simple. And if you do those things right, then you're gonna more than likely have success, and you're gonna be able to sustain a lot of success. And that in this day and age is hard because I don't want to say players get bored with success, but for lack of better words, they get bored just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, and I use some guys on our team, and we've all fallen into that trap. Well, you see somebody else hit a home run, you're like, God, well, I'm hitting 395 and my on base percentage is 550 and I've stolen 25 bags, but for whatever reason, you're bored with that because it may not be sexy, and it's the same conversation I had about an hour ago with Tulo and talking about, we were talking about arm strength and something else. And he goes, there's no substitute for hard work. Bottom line, there's no secret machine that's going to take that place. There's no secret med ball that's going to take the place. Do those help? Sure, but they're not going to help if you don't have hard work. And I think that's what we've really tried to do here is just make things simple. And I'm a firm believer in hard work. I think it's on the hitting side or on the pitching side. You got to be able to do some things on the pitching side to be able to throw strikes. Well, if you can't throw strikes, Rapsodo's not going to help. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the bottom line. I'm not discounting that and the machine because I think it's good, man. I think it's great. But if you can't throw the rubber, right, and then you get further down, you can't throw strike, then those things aren't going to help. And so therefore, I think that's where the foundation comes from. And it's no different than, I know you guys a lot about the mental game, and I'm into the mental game. And Revisa, it's like Revisa was a game changer in baseball. Right. But the stuff was the same. There was no new thing. There was not like he grabbed something out of the tree and said, hey, let's try this today and see if it works. It was the same stuff. And I had Ken from 2004 through my time at UCLA through 2005. So for every single year, I heard the same thing, but I always heard it a little differently. And that's just what we're trying to, and that's why part of what we did create is could you imagine if people, and I'm not just saying my 6 words, but if you pick 6 words and my sake, loyalty, respect, love, respond, accountability, and courage, and you nailed those words and you live those words, I mean, you got to imagine that the success rate would go through the roof.
Yeah, both on and off the field, without question.
And so that's really what we've tried to do with our program. We just try to simplify everything. And I think there again, a phrase I've taken from, and Austin's heard this, and so has you, obviously a friend of mine in the coaching world, and who we are completely different, is Jay. Austin, you had a chance to play for Jay, and I have it right here written down, Burger King method, have it your way, quote, end quote, their way. And that's something that Do we get into certain things? Yeah, we have all the machines and we got the TVs and we got it all, but not all 22 position players are the same. So some may want that simplicity, and there's other guys as they grow older and mature into different players, they can handle a little bit different audio listening or some different things. So, but you got to have a foundation, and that's number one. I mean, if you don't have a foundation of who you are, what you want to be, what you want to accomplish, then it doesn't matter about anything else.
No, and that message of, like you said, about keeping it as simple as possible so they can go do. I mean, it's just because all the last other piece on Murph. I remember you guys sitting there talking hitting, and he was like, hit it on the fat part of the bat.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
that was the people are always like, what's the ASU hitting philosophy? And he's like, don't chase and hit it right there. I mean, that's about as simple as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I remember his rules. I mean, I think if you remember right, the rules on the hitting side were hit on the fat part of the bat and don't chase. Okay, got it. I mean, I'm just going to go out and do it. But see, that's not good enough for people, because it's like, well, what do you mean I got to hit it? Yeah, but what happens if this and this and this? And
right.
Well, what happens if I'm not good in what if situations. But I think that's where, if you go back to the successful coaches that have done it, that have lived it, that have been into Omaha, they are doing the same thing. Skip, I mean, Coach Gillespie, Skip, I mean, there was all those USC teams had a foundation. I mean, they all had a foundation. And let me tell you what, they can skill when they need to skill. They can run when they need to run. But there was a foundation in what they had, what a USC player was. John's the same way at UCLA. Skip was the same way at UC Irvine. Mike Weathers, Dave Snow was the same way at Long Beach State. I mean, Andy Lopez. I mean, Tim Corbin. You go all these things. All these guys are really good at what they can control. And that's part of our first meeting. If you are really good at what you can't control, we're going to have the greatest year we've ever had. But there's a problem. Right? They think it's not sexy enough. Running a hard 90 is not sexy. Well, let me just tell you, it does. It accomplishes A, B, C, and D, and then there's your foundation, because that bleeds over to how you get on off the field. That bleeds over into how you hold yourself. That bleeds over to all these other things that have nothing to do with your physical, basically your physical. Limitations or your physical being on the field of hitting, throwing, running. I mean, if you do all those other things right, you'll be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, well, I'll say this last thing before Austin asks you a question. I think you almost like redefined the message for 2021 Nevada baseball, which is we're going to redefine sexy.
Hey, I mean, and that's true.
We're going to redefine it, because it's running a hard 90. Yeah, running a hard 90.
Yeah, and I wrote down this quote. I wrote down two quotes as we get into this, and as I got my paper, right? I got a lot. I'm old school. Look at this, Austin. You remember it from college, right? I'm old school with paper.
Spiral.
I got it a spiral book, but
Great.
I wrote down two things. Activity equals production, so people think, which is completely not true. And that's a message to our hitters about, more or less on the offensive side, about swinging, right? Just because you go in the cage and swing the bat 50 times, that doesn't equal that you're getting better.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing? What is your goal? And then the other one is I wrote down, mindset separates, discipline determines. I mean, God, could you just imagine that? Let that sink in for a second. And that has nothing to do about, and I'm going to use Austin again because about how offensive he was. That has nothing to do with him hitting however many home runs he hit as a senior or junior, however many double. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing. But we all get confused because this is boring. They think this is boring. It doesn't attract this or that. It's not boring, because once you master that, which you never are a master of it, but if you can get that under control, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to be successful. And you're going to be clear. The clarity is just going to be through the roof.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, man. Fire away, Austin. I know you got a couple over there.
That's the certified hashtag wisdom bomb of the day. TJ Bruce certified. Mindset separates, discipline determines, man. That's going on my wall. I'm going to look at it every morning because that is fire, man. Good for you. That's freaking awesome. You mentioned a lot of things that really hit home. A lot of things. And the three main ones: identity, like who do you say you are? Faith. I think faith is massive. If anything, like we can try and do it on our own all we want, but until we ask for a higher power for somebody else, whatever you find your faith in, that's very, very important. I love what you did with your family. I think that's unbelievable. And imagine if 10% of the families in the world did that together.
Sure.
How amazing of a place this would be. And then foundation, building a foundation for success, not only on the field, but off the field, and how it translates from off the field to on the field performance. Now, I want to kind of shift gears into the player type deal, because you talk a lot about the culture. And I think culture can be, like you said, it's a buzzword. You hear it a lot. But what are you looking for in the recruiting process? Like, is that where you're building your culture, is in the recruiting process? Like, hey, the senior in high school looks like he's got the mold. I'm going to recruit this type of a player. Or is it once we get them in, we can kind of determine that culture, if that makes sense? Like, where does that kind of happen in that whole process? Building.
Yeah, man. I think the recruiting process, obviously I think that's where a lot of you're going to make or break your program. And I think, just listening to some guys over this time and how they do recruiting differently, but it's really under the same umbrella. That's where I think the honesty and transparency comes into play. And because too many times, and here's what I've seen is, and we've all been at fault with it, is too many times you portray this identity and image of who you are recruiting, and then all of a sudden they get there and then nothing's ever the same. And so that's where we try to do the best job we can in terms of being transparent. And, because there's ex-teammates that did play for me that you played with. And, I would say the one thing that we hang our hat on during every process is transparency and honesty. And my goal isn't to demean or not determine you to be the best, but my goal is to make you aware of what are some positives and what are some negatives that you do got. Not necessarily negatives, but what are some areas you got to grow at. And I think we're really cautious on those terms too, because we try to use deficiencies, right? Well, deficiencies is a negative word. Negative, what are your negatives? And I just said it, I just caught myself, but that's a negative word. So, and Dean, help me with this. What are some areas we can grow on? And that's what we've tried to determine in the recruiting process. And it's easy to spot the guy that can hit, run, throw, field, all the above. And can throw a 95. I can do that, but I want the guy. What about the guy that has passion? What about the guy that cares about his teammates? What about the guy that's it's the Michael Jordan that's shooting the ball, or the Steve Kerr. I would bring up Steve Kerr, right? I mean, that's fresh on everybody's mind, but the Steve Kerr that's getting better so he can accommodate Michael. Where are those guys that have nothing to do with the physical tools of playing baseball? And that's part of the recruiting process. And I think the other part is what people don't understand too is not everybody, there's a place for everybody to play, which that's a whole nother topic, right? People think if you don't play Division I, you're not good. Well, that's not true. Or people think I got to go to JC. Hey, I'm a JC player. So is Coach Horton. So is Jason Gill. So is Michael. I mean, all these guys. I mean, Mike Weathers, Dave Snow. I mean, they're all JC players, and there's a place for everybody to play. But I also think is what are you looking for within your program, and what can you help develop? That's another one. And people there's always a negative, like, well, why didn't you take this guy? Well, there may be something inside that I knew I could not help, and vice versa. So therefore you're like, hey, I don't think we can move on this guy because of this. But there's the other question too, that guys are always, well, this guy's 95. He has a slider and a change. He has 3 pitches. You guys aren't even offering him. What's the problem? Well, so maybe there's something that doesn't align with the goals of the program or the goals of them, and it's a different recruiting's. It's a different animal. It's something that you got to spend a lot of time in. And unfortunately, in today's recruiting world, just because I did it in the Power 5 area, is that you're making decisions 3, 4, 5 years out. the refreshing part is being at Nevada. We're not working that far out, so now you're really getting a chance to impact people on a different level because you're getting a chance to know them, know their families, know their girlfriends. What's the dog's name? You know, mom and dad, what do they do? What's stepdad do? What's this? What? And my advice to people recruiting is get to their inner circle. And I think that's super hard to do, but I think there's avenues to do it, and you got to get to their inner circle and find out what makes them tick and what makes them go. What's their why? What is their why? Find out their why. You know, it may be because dad was a big league player and he wants me to play baseball. Well, at some point, I don't know if that's going to align somewhere along the line, but what's your why? You know, and those are just some traits that we look for in Nevada. And really they haven't changed. They haven't changed since my time at UCLA, and I don't foresee them changing as we move forward into the next few years of recruiting.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. And for all the parents that are watching on Facebook who are showing this to their kids or their families around the screen right now, or that will see this eventually, I think that gives a lot of people hope that you don't have to have the 95 arm, the big left-handed bat, or the freaking 6'2", 60 that somehow you're running, like, and just all this crazy stat stuff that you see. And you also don't have to go do these crazy drive line balls, which, yes, they probably help, but like throwing it backwards and PVC drills on Twitter and all this crazy stuff that you see that looks so good. And you think that it's going to get you to the big leagues, but in reality, what goes in here and what goes in here is really what determines it. You mentioned the passion, and I love that.
Yep.
There's so many things we can get into, the pride and like performing and being in that peak performing state of mind. But something that you guys have always done really well, and this is from your time at UCLA and your career, but at Nevada, you've historically been extremely good at defense and pitching. And pitching in Nevada, as you know, is not the easiest thing to do. So shout out Aiden here for trying to handle some of that, man. Like, heart goes out to you, because that Piccoli wind is a big-time favor if you're a Wolfpack, but it could also favor the other team, unfortunately.
Hey, that left center gap, right? You just pepper that left center gap as a left-hander, man. You make a lot of money.
Hey, simplify. Maybe you got to know your strengths, right? You got to know your strengths. But you get into that, right? And you guys do those really well. Well, historically, in just the athlete's mind, defense is really annoying to do all the time and monotonous, like you talked about. And pitching, like, you got to be really good a lot of the time. And so I want to talk about like the defensive side of the ball. How do you get your athletes to buy in with pride? And then, Dean, you can kick it off to finish it off. But how do you like get them to take pride in the little things and the monotonous tasks and the things that all of us hate doing every day, the simple rollers, and you got too low on the deal. Like, how do you get them to take pride in those everyday tasks that you know as a coach are going to help you win a championship in the long run?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because not a lot of people, especially, I mean, in our league, no one's talking about defense a whole lot, but it's always offensive, and how can you create more runs? And I think really we've changed the game a little bit, because we're not trying to outscore you. And yes, I guess in a sense you are, because that's how you win games, but we're trying to prevent you from scoring runs. And the number one thing we tell our defense is, defense, in my opinion, is all about pride. You have a chance to change the game for 9 innings, 8.5 innings, or 9 innings. You have a chance to change the game. Offensively, if you're a high school player, you have a chance to change the game 3 times. That's it, 3 times. I mean, the first, the third, and the fifth, and if you're hitting the top of the order and you're scoring a lot of runs, you may hit in the 7th. You know, at our level, you have a chance to change the game 4 times. But that goes back into what shows up every day. And your offenses, you know, being an offensive guy, that doesn't show up every day. I mean, there's a lot of days where it doesn't show up. In my opinion, the defense can show up every day. That is part of a controllable, in my opinion. And that's really, we've just tried to shift the mindset about it, about the defensive part. Because like I tell them, there's only 15 DHs in the world. I mean, that's the bottom line. There's only 15 of them. And, you know, and we only have 1 of them on our team. So I don't know, if you want to be able to play, you're going to have to at some point be able to defend in our program. And it's just so happens that they've done a really good job. And we've had the players to do it, though. And that's the number one thing is we just, as coaches, we just try to change one little thing. But we've had a shortstop in Brisbane for 2 years who was a mainstay at shortstop, man. And you want to talk about mental makeup. I mean, that's as good as I've been around. And we've been fortunate to have those types of players that have taken pride in their defense and have learned that they can make a huge adjustment in the game and shift the game by making one play. And that's where we've just shifted the ERA, talk about sabermetrics and all that. Now I'm kind of getting creative, but we've shifted the ERA into the defensive ERA. And that's, hey, man, it's not on Owen Sharps giving up the run. It's on the 8 guys behind you, because I believe defense makes good pitching and pitching makes good defense. They go hand in hand. You're going to need each other. And that's where we've just shifted the mindset, in my opinion, on that. But more importantly, these guys have bought into it, and that's the biggest thing.
That's awesome. I love hearing it. I love hearing the defense because, like you mentioned, nobody talks about it in the Mountain West. It's all about the big bangers, and let's go to New Mexico and UNLV and all these Air Force. Like, yeah, the ball flies, but there's a reason why every single year that you've been in Nevada, no matter what the record says in the regular season, in the conference championship, you have an opportunity to win every single year. And there's no secret to the sauce. Like, you take pride in little things. You get the athletes to buy into the culture that you present and that you guys have created as a staff there. And now what happens is when you get to those, I guess, the tournament, you guys are in a good position to win no matter what happens all year. And I love that. I love that you're battle tested. You're ready to go. This is awesome. And it's fun to hear the similarities. I mean, Dean, you can attest to this too, like having coaches from all different backgrounds, all different flavors, all different types of sauce. But there's a few things that remain the same. It's about the people, it's about the leadership, and it's about the identity of the program and the foundation that you're creating. And it's so much fun to just learn what's going on. So Dean, I'll let you kick it off for the last couple of questions, man, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, no, I got one more for you, but I think you just created another new hashtag that's defense is sexy, right?
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, there it is.
I like that. Well, it's like that, Perry Hill, the Seattle Mariners, obviously the world-renowned defensive guy. He created that defense. What is it? No 27 outs, no more than 27 outs or something like that.
Yeah,
and
right.
I do, man. I firmly believe in it. And that goes back to my background as a player. Because when you're hitting 187, you had to find a way to be in the lineup. And I ended up being the role player and on that really good team, which was great, man. I knew my role, but I knew what showed up every day. And when I didn't play, I knew I was warming up in the 7th inning to come in and play. And I knew I was always on. The piece of paper that whether you're in the lineup or not, or where's the pieces. And that's a lot of, you hear defense wins championships, but I firmly believe it. I just go back to our run in 2013, and I don't think anybody's ever went on a run like that. With the numbers, I think our ERA, we went 10-0 in the postseason. We fielded 984, and our ERA was under 1, and we hit 120. We won a national title. And I think that's why when people want to come back and say, well, does defense win? Oh, yeah. It shows up, and it has a chance to show up every single day for sure. And so it shows up. You come to a practice, there's a lot of it. But I also think, and Austin, you hit it, man, because it's monotonous. I think it tests your mental makeup. I think that part, you want to talk about being present. If I had to swing a stick for an hour, I could be present most of the time because I'm just grunting and trying to get the barrel to a ball and trying to punish something. But you want to talk about being present and over and over and, we again and again and again. And it's challenging from a mindset standpoint.
Well, no, but I think a key point you hit on there too is the perspective about it. It's like, what do you think about it? Like do you enjoy playing defense? Do you love it? Do you take pride in it? Or is it a thing you kind of, have to do, so that to me, but you said that earlier, I think that's a key part for people listening is we genuinely take pride in that thing. That's something we enjoy doing around here. And if you want to play at this level, you gotta, like you said, they gotta have that mindset about it. It's not something that you just want to get through. So kind of our last one we always like to ask people is is the kind of the advice to the younger self question. So even though you're still a young guy, but kind of looking back over the, different parts of your career, if you could, if you could go back, just because it's good for different coaches to hear what different coaches are, would say to themselves, but based on where they're at, I got my little ones here. Yeah, buddy. Thank you. What is some of the, hang on, buddy. What is some of the advice what's something you'd give to yourself as a piece of advice?
I think the one that sticks out that came right to the forefront, and we talked about, we always had to navigate through some learning curves on who you hang out with. But I think the biggest thing is you can't be afraid of who you are, and don't run from who you are. And that's how I think you create leadership. I think, and this is just advice to everybody, and I still got to take it too, because sometimes I do follow that somebody that's had certain success has done it a certain way. Oh, maybe I'll try that, but that doesn't really work for me. And I've talked to a lot of my colleagues about that also. But don't run from who you are, and that will create you. That will create you being a leader. That will create you not being a follower, and that will let you stand alone. And that when times are tough, and that's how I look at it. I do things a different way. We all do. All three of us, man, go approach life different, but we can't be afraid of that. And I think at this moment in time, the three of us aren't afraid of who we are. And right, wrong, or different doesn't make anybody right or wrong. We're all people, but that would be what I would tell myself, because there was times I got caught up in trying to do something who I wasn't, and because I was worried about perception, or I was worried about somebody else's opinion. Hey, man, I don't want to say you can't, and change isn't the word, it's growing. And I think if you're in pursuit of growth within the confines of who you are, you're going to be super successful. And that's part of that. That's really been part of my journey as I keep working to grow as a person, as a man of faith, as a husband, as a father, and then as a program leader. I mean, that would be what I would say to my younger self, and hopefully my younger self would listen. That's what I would say.
So that'd be piece of advice. Number one would be listen. Number two, and do this.
Yeah, I mean, and the last thing, I mean, and a little bit on that is I always go into, we talk about preparation, but I think there's a stage before preparation, and this is an old Dave Snow quote, man, and some I try to live myself. I have it written down right here: is you got to be ready to be ready. And I mean, you want to talk about simplicity and blowing the doors off right there. Just think about that. I mean, because some guys aren't ready to be ready. I mean, and that's no one ever has heard that. No one has ever said that, but it's a lot about what you say, Dean, is everything matters because everything communicates. And you're like, whoa, what? I mean, that just when the first time you told me that blew my doors off. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Just because I show up, in a visor one day, or I show up in what are you talking about? And, but hey, man, it all funnels to the same. You're all going out the same way. It's just, like I said, hopefully my younger self would have listened in the next life. But that would be my thing for people out there is don't stop growing, but know who you are, and don't be afraid of who you are. And I think that's some of it. Sometimes we're afraid of who we are because of what we think about people surround us. But I'm a man of faith, and there's only one person that matters to me. So if I can do that, then I'm in a pretty good spot.
Good stuff, dude. Appreciate the authentic answer, man. I'll kick it to Austin to finish it up, wrap it up, man.
You know me, man. I can't.
Shit,
I don't hide much. I try to hide some things, and I just can't do it.
You suck at it, dude.
I try, man. I'm like, it's like the time that sometimes these alumni come out. It's like, guys, I'm trying to be like, yeah, what's up? You're gonna do something, and I just can't. Not them, but something's going to go down, and I just can't hide it. I got to get it off my chest. I'm not good at it. And it causes sometimes – I'm just glad I know who runs my household, so at least that way it kind of keeps me in line a little bit.
Good insight.
Yeah, this is hilarious. Yeah, I love this. I love it. TJ, before we wrap this up, where can people find you in Nevada baseball? On social media, Twitter, all the above?
Yeah, man. Nevada Baseball, the Twitter handle is at Nevada Baseball. My handle is at TJ Bruce underscore or at TJ underscore Bruce, I believe. And then I'm back on Instagram. I took a
Oh,
I took a sabbatical for a while because I need to get off. Um, but I'm back on Instagram. I believe it's TJ Bruce 02. But my wife's all over it as she's running her own business and all that stuff. So we're all over. We're pretty authentic. I wouldn't say pretty. I would say we're authentic as they come. But hey, man, we that's how we're doing life. And man, hopefully I have affected some people out there, and I know you two guys have. So keep it up.
well, we definitely appreciate that, Teej, but we know you're affecting so many people hands-on every single day with the program you've had. And as an alumni, I'm extremely blessed to say, let's go, Nevada, baby. I'm fired
Now
up.
I need your address, man, so I can send you some new gear.
I might just take a trip up, have some Archie's breakfast.
Hey,
with
let's
TD,
go.
man. I'm in for that. And we can get Coach
Well,
Savage involved. We can have Coach Jack. Like, we can get the whole crew involved, man.
Let's get everybody involved. We'll get Dino out of Sparks and out into Reno, and
Right.
we can just break down some old times, man. I'd love to show you the facility and some things that we're putting in, and love to have you out there. It's home, man. It's I'm just the caretaker of the program. It's you guys. It's your guys' home.
I love it, man. We respect it, and we love what you're doing there and the program that you're continuing to build. And just thank you for hopping on here, taking the time out of your day. I know you got a busy life with the family there. They're running all around you to get back to do some good things. But thanks for everything you're doing, TJ. Nevada Baseball, TJ Bruce. Get him on Twitter. Get him on Instagram now, the IG snapshots, see the stories. And if you need anything, Coach, we're always here for you as well. And we're sending our best to you, your players, the program, the entire state of Reno or city of Reno. I consider it a state home, baby. That's the place to go. So we appreciate you, Coach. Have a great night, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you, guys, and talk to you soon.
Absolutely. See you guys.
All right. See you.